welcome to a brand new episode of Treasures. Today we'll take you on a journey to one of the oldest streets in Cairo and one of the oldest mausoleums and madrasa or schools. It's Salih Najmuddin Ayyub Mausoleum and Madrasa. The Madrasa or Mausoleum of Salih Najmuddin Ayyub As-Salihiyya. The last Ayyubid Sultan of Egypt was the Salih Najmuddin Ayyub, who died defending Egypt against the Crusader attack that was led by Louis XVI. He was the grandson of the more famous Salah ad-Din Ayyub, known in the West as Salah ad-Din. However, before his death, he built a rather unique school or madrasa between 1242 and 1244, with the later addition of a tomb. The mausoleum was built in 1250 by Shajarat ad-Durr, his wife of Salih ad-Din, who outlived him and became famous as she ruled with the first of the Mamluk sultans after his death.
Welcome in this nice place. We are now in Al-Mu'izz Street beside the mausoleum of Salih Najmuddin Ayyub, one of the Ayyubid sultans. This mausoleum was built by his wife Shajar ad-Durr during the 13th century. And on the right side we can see the ruins of the madrasa of Al-Zahir Babers, Al-Bunduk Dar. This madrasa unfortunately was demolished by the French when the mission of Napoleon Bonaparte came to Cairo. Also, not far from the mausoleum, just behind this building, we have the famous madrasa of Salih Najmuddin Ayyub, which was the first Ayyubid madrasa, had the 4 Iwans, teaching the 4 sects of Islam. Also, we can see a very small building, which is the Sabil of Nasir Khusro. It's formed of 2 levels. We have the Kutab of the orphans, was built on the upper structure, and on the lower part, a place provide the people with the pure water.
Though several madrasas were built in Al-Qahira and Al-Fustat or modern Cairo during the period, many of them amongst houses and palaces, this is about the only one to have survived in condition that allows the design to be fully explored. The construct is unique in that it was the first known example of a tomb being attached to a madrasa. The transitional zone of the mausoleum has the earliest example of the Korean 3-tiered brick mokaran swins. Another notable feature of the mausoleum is that the mihrab is the earliest extant example of an Egyptian prayer niche with a marble lining and 3 remains of fine wooden cenotaph marking the tomb itself. There are 2 carved wooden Quranic friezes around the chamber. A part of the mausoleum protruded into the street, and on this side were windows fronted by iron grills, behind which sat the reciters of the Quran, whose recitations invoked the blessings of those passing by. The mausoleum became a site of grand Bahri Mamluk ceremonials, for it was here that the new Mamluk emirs, upon descending from the citadel in a long procession, pledged allegiance to the Sultan. And here the four chief religious justices, or qadis, heard cases referred to them from the lower courts. Throughout much of the Mamluk period, they formed the supreme judicial tribune of the state, and hence this construct became the center of town, the courthouse square of Cairo. The madrasa of Salih Najmuddin Ayyub occupies part of the site where the great Fatimite palace once stood, within the heart of the Fatimite city, as the spot of the famous Khan al-Khalili Bazaar. It is rather difficult to spot because only the minaret remains visible behind a row of shops. The minaret is the only one to have survived intact that dates from the Ayyubite period. The minaret rests upon the roof of a passage and consists of a rectangular shaft, receding into a second story in the shape of an octagon and topped by a ribbed angular roof resting on the stalactites.
Now we are in front of the facade of the madrasa of Salih Najmuddin Ayyub, which was built during the 13th century. And just behind me is the entrance of the madrasa, topped with the famous minaret that was built during his time. And we can see the top of the minaret, which was built in the shape of the incense burner. Also over the entrance, we can see the foundation slab, which mentions the name of the sultan, names and titles, and the date of building this madrasa. Just behind the facade, we'll see the iwans of the madrasas. Unfortunately, most of these iwans damaged, except one iwan, which was known to be one of the iwans for teaching the four sects of the Islam. Also, underneath the entrance, we can see the wooden ceiling of the madrasa with a nice color still remained.
This gap is reminiscent of that of the Abu al-Ghadanfar built during the late Fatimite period, which marks the beginning of this mabkhara, or the incense burner, a term introduced by Orientalist Richard Burton, who have been told that the Fatimite Khalif al-Hakim burned incense in the minarets to perfume the mosque, or the pepper pot shape in the minaret architecture. The rectangular shaft of the minaret is really not very visible on the street side, but in the back it is adorned with the keel-arched panels with the fluted hoods of the carved stucco. Above this, the octagonal level is decorated with lobed openings and stalactites. These stalactites mark the earliest example in the decoration of a minaret helmet, a feature that later forms an integral part of the Mabkhara minaret decoration. The passage